chance to welcome you all and thank you all for coming out to share this very special evening with us. When we were planning our events for this year, our 100th anniversary year actually, we knew we wanted to have a particularly exceptional speaker for our Activist Forum event, and we could think of no one better or more appropriate than our Campus Minister Emeritus, James B. Holiman, who served here at the IDF for 37 years. In many ways, Jim is responsible for making the IDF what it is today and helping us to shape our peaceful social justice mission. Before I bring Joe Miller, the IDF board moderator, up here to give you a slightly more personal introduction to Jim, I just want to let you know that although I'm sure Jim will probably be asking you lots of questions during his talk, there will be some time after the talk for you to ask him questions, so please stick around for that. And if you come up with any questions hearing him speak, save those. And we'll also be quickly announcing some of our upcoming events after the talk tonight, so please stick around. There are flyers for all those events out on the literature table, so please check those out. Take some with you if you want to. There's also a sign-up sheet and a donation bucket out at the literature table, and at some point tonight we'll probably be passing those around. Please sign in. It just helps us to remember you all and know that you came out to share this event with us. And when the donation bucket comes around, please consider making a donation. It goes to support the Peace with Justice work of the Illinois Disciples Foundation, and we couldn't keep doing our work without your support. So, Joe.
Thanks, Aaron. It's good to see so many old friends out here tonight to hear what Jim has to say, or the various versions of what you might have to say tonight. I was trying to think of a way to introduce Jim, because he's supposed to be talking about himself, so I'm not going to say too much about who he is, but more about how I connected with him. And I realized, to my horror, that it's 20 years ago, this spring, that I first came back to Champaign-Urbana. I was up in the Chicago area selling hardware in Sears, and I got a call from the department head of the political science department to come down and finish teaching a political theory class for a colleague that was ill. That turned into a 2-year visiting professorship here, and it was at that point that I got connected with the People's Alliance in Central America, PACA. How many remember PACA? Very active organization, very busy organization. And that's where I first saw Jim. I didn't know who he was. All I saw was this tall guy wearing that weird bird cross-like thing, and being a ex-Catholic, Reformed Catholic, recovering Catholic, whatever you want to call it, it just looked a little strange, and it was kind of, it took me a while to figure out who he was and what his connections were. For those next 2 years, between 1985 and 87, I would attend PACA events, and I would and hear about the work with Sanctuary that was being done here at IDF, and we would have events here in Weisgarten, and gradually got to know about Jim and know Jim a little bit better. But it wasn't until I came back to campus again in 1988 that I reconnected with the foundation and began work with what now has become the Progressive Resource Action Cooperative, or PRC. We used to have meetings down the hall. This is in 1989, 1990, and Jim would come down from board meetings of the foundation, and he would tell us how much money we got this year that we could use, or not. And we tended to have a fair amount at that point. Doesn't happen anymore. But within a couple of years, particularly after the Gulf War, the first Gulf War was over, in 1991, soon after those events began to wind down, Jim invites me to lunch. And I discovered over the years that that's the kiss of welcome, I guess, into the IDF maelstrom. And from that point on, from 1991, Jim invited me to be on the board of directors of the IDF, and I've been on the board ever since. So that's what happens. Jim has been a great friend, has been a comrade, has been really a close personal connection with what I've come to understand as a re-understanding of spirituality and connection with political activism, and I'm sure that everybody's going to have their ears wide open to hear what he has to say tonight, and we'll all enjoy it. Come on up here, Jim.
don't recognize the name, so if anybody knows who this person is, let me know. She looks very interesting. Probably a member of Amnesty International. And probably down somewhere south working on the School of Americas. This picture, but who knows? Well, thank you very much for that introduction. I'm told that the criteria for making this speech is you have to be 50 years old and plus, so I'm certainly plus. And I fill that criteria. I'm also supposed to be able to tell inspiring stories, but I've never been able to make an inspirational speech, so you're going to be bored tonight. And I'm supposed to share what still inspires me and other reflections with you. So these are just very big orders for me. And it's going to help if I find out a little bit about you guys first, so that I can sort of search through my brain and memory to find out what it is that's concerning you, and that'll help me search for maybe relevant material to relate to that. So I'm interested in knowing who you are, your name, and what social concerns you happen to have. Sharon, what do you have on your mind tonight?
Well, my name is Sharon. I have my friend Bill Taylor on my mind tonight,
Yes.
and I have,
Why is Bill on your mind?
because Bill was injured at the farm on Friday.
Got his hand cut off.
He did. And so I've been thinking a lot about Bill, and I've been also very grateful for my hand.
Yes.
And I've been doing a lot of thinking about whiteness and racism, and my roles in those two things.
Okay, good.
That's probably a good start.
Okay. Kay, how about you?
Oh, you're not going in order. I didn't get a chance. Okay, I'm Kay. And I guess that question always in my mind, having been a member and continuing to love this group, is how is it that there's so many good people that do such really good things, and we're doing awfully bad things. I can never figure that out. And what's always on my mind is the fact that since I was introduced to mental illness through one of the sons being so ill, I just don't understand how people can't pay attention to this very something that happens to a lot of people. And we just don't seem to, we can't even get parity for people who have mental illnesses, brain illnesses, with the other kinds of illnesses. That's my story.
Okay. I'll switch from the right side of the room to the left. Chuck?
Well, my name is Chuck. Well, I suppose one of my continuing and increasing concerns is slide in this country further and further away from democracy, and seeming impossibility of I don't know if impossible, but it just seems like elections are becoming more and more easily stolen in this country, and media seems to be more and more incompetent, unwilling to do their job, and that I just hope that it's just getting darker before the dawn. Hopefully the dawn is going to creep up on us, but I guess that's my concern.
My name is Meg.
Meg?
I worry about the war. Pick one. Prisons and disparity in the socioeconomic groups.
those are good things to write down. And how about you?
Wait, Jim, I think I've known you for over 35 years.
Close to it.
Seems to me that many people are intimidated these days, that this is sort of a key word. Politicians are intimidating everyone to newscasters, common folk to just believe what they say without examination. And of course, the concern is the morass in Iraq and just wondering where everyone ended up.
How about this defeated politician?
Oh. Thank heavens. That's not necessarily a bad thing either. What was your question? What's your concern? Name is Joel Cruz.
Social concern.
About everything. You know, I think it's very hard just to isolate one aspect of it because our culture is, I've come to understand it and know it, is so pervasively ill in almost every aspect, and it's reflected in all of the things that people have talked about, whether it's militarism or sexism or economic class. But the thing, again, that seems to trouble me in the culture that we have, there seems to be in the part of many people's lives a lack of purpose or meaning or spirituality, and I don't know how that can be addressed in the culture because I'm not sure if the culture can be changed without that fundamental personal change occurring first in some way to motivate people. It's very troubling for me to see all the Thank Illini yard signs scattered around in the community as if that is a highlight of what this community is about when there's so many other social issues that we seem to ignore.
How about you?
My name is Eric. I'm with the Catholic Worker. I'm interested in Christianity's resources for resistance and creation of alternative communities, and how that interacts with anarchism in particular, how to influence society without resorting to the power coercion of the nation state, and creating alternative communities. And I think Durrell is right about the personal change. I think that's pretty fundamental. So.
How about you?
I moved to the Catholic Worker today
Huh?
at 1:30 p.m. and I am sort of just trying to think or figure out some way to accept this change that I'm going through, leaving these more, traditional values, middle-class values of like working and money and saving, to a life of not working. I mean, working, but not with money, and incorporating God and living anyway. And I'm also worried about Africa a lot too. We have an African guest, and that's very interesting to me.
Claudia?
I'm Claudia Lenhoff, and I think I probably share a lot of the same concerns that people do. Day to day, my work involves healthcare access and healthcare justice, all types of healthcare, mental health, oral health, physical health, and so on. I'm concerned about poverty and inequality, and the country sort of more and more people who can't make ends meet, and where there isn't justice and so on, and also concerned about international events and the U.S. government's role in that and so on. And I think beyond the issues, the particular issues, sort of the bigger concern that I have as an organizer and part of this community is thinking about how to sustain the organizing. There's always going to be issues. I know right now feels like a crisis in a lot of ways, and it is, but the long view is always about having people involved in organizing for social justice. And so this evening, one of my particular interests is sort of hearing about, if you're going to talk about this, struggles from the past, and then also what you know, what they tell us about the road ahead, and, you know, how to engage people.
Well,
Oh, Jim. Jan, well, I guess sort of all of those, but healthcare issues and, you know, quality for people and that. And I guess racism right now just became one of the famous five who dare to vote to take fighting the Illini out of our county board resolution, and in the paper have been called everything from stupid to daffy to just petty. And I'm glad I did it.
well, we've been there together.
Yeah, and I just came to, go a long way back, and I just wanted to kind of remember some of those and kind of give hope for going on and working on all of the issues that people are talking about.
Well, thank you much. That makes me feel pretty much at home. I share a lot of those concerns and I've plugged into them at various places. I'm going to have to get a drink of this holy water up here. From the food co-op, it's called Trinity. Well, some of the guidelines that I'm going to follow in these remarks. I've written down a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to use all of it because we'd be here all night. So I needed to hear from you guys what some of those concerns were, and I'll try to talk somewhere along the line about some of those. So that's what the first part of this is going to be. And then the second part are going to be some theological reflections on my life story. And after that, we'll have some discussion. I've entitled tonight, Deep Memory Towards Uprising Hope. Everybody's shaped by their family, so that was true for me for sure. I was born on 27th of January 1935, so I'm 70 years old. Dinosaur are getting there. My dad was Mose Miller Holiman, and Mom was Mary Jane Buchanan Holiman. And we lived on what was called Holiman Hill. It had been in the family since 1868. It was a weathered geological uplift that was set in the middle of a soft pine tree forest that stretched from east to west in central Arkansas about 250 miles. Lots of water, streams, creeks, the Washita River flowing through it. And one of my fondest memories is hiking through that forest with my bulldog Mike. Mom told this story that the first time I ran away, I was 6 months old. Now, I don't believe Mom, but that was her story, and part of it had to do with the fact that I was running away a lot and going back into the forest, trying to escape something, I guess. And but on the hill, on hot, sweltering Arkansas nights, Mom would spread out quilts on the east shoulder of the hill, and we'd sleep out there. And before everybody would go to sleep, why, Mom would sometimes dance and sing out there on the hill about this is the world that the Lord has made. And that began to generate in me the imagination that there was some kind of organic continuum in the universe within which and outside of which we were all somehow embedded. And it was very spiritual. Mom seemed to really enjoy it, and I did too. And that piece of imagination began to work on me some way. Now, the hill was about 5 miles outside of Hot Springs, Arkansas. was my good fortune or ill fortune, one of the two, to be of Hot Springs, Arkansas, which, as Garrison Keeler pointed out recently, is the loose buckle on the Bible belt. And when I was there, it was the hottest entertainment and recreational center in the United States. It had been set up in the 20s by Al Capone and his brother Ralph, Lucky Luciano, Ernie Madden, Bugsy Siegel, Tom Pendergrass, who was the big wheel behind Harry Truman, and the best entertainers in the world came and sang and danced and played in bands. It was just a wild and woolly place, and it was a lot of fun. The Hot Springs Hot Springs had a phenomena about it that was both a bane and a blessing, and it was water. There are 59 springs there, pumping out water at 153 degrees. 500,000 gallons of water per day. And from the most ancient of times, Native Americans, or maybe their ancestors, would come to Hot Springs to bathe in what were the sacred healing waters. After the Civil War, somebody discovered this stuff has got financial value and began to build bathhouses. Actually, there were tents in those days. And wealthy folk, a lot from Chicago, would find their way to Hot Springs to bathe in those waters in order to cure whatever ailed them. Pretty soon, gamblers who were working on the Washita River saw an opportunity here to take the money of those tourists and those sick people